The end of November marked the end of the bulk data collection program that the NSA had. The famous leak that Edward Snowden created this change, and in its place, the USA Freedom Act kicked in. And what's important to know is that although the government is not involved in collecting data from citizens anymore, now they have a better way to do it. Now they can outsource this to the telecommunication companies, Margaret. And this is something that, although many people celebrated the Freedom Act as the very first legislation that protects citizens from surveillance from the government, in reality, there's very important loopholes to look at, because now, basically, taxpayer money goes into paying AT&T, Verizon, the telecommunication companies to store the data and our data, so the government, if they want to, can access it later.
Right. Well, the bulk collection of phone records and information, it was banned under the USA Freedom Act. They had so many loopholes in this act that it had no teeth. It wasn't able to stop the NSA's bulk collection program. They're still doing it. You're absolutely right. Their legal authority ended at midnight on Saturday, and they said, you know what? We've still got this ability. We're just going to pay these companies now. But Jose, they've been doing this. Verizon, AT&T, telecom giants for the past 14 years, since the Patriot Act, the creation of the NSA, the creation of this massive spy apparatus. This is nothing new. They've been taking this information from private companies for years. They're officially doing it now.
Exactly. Now it's official that the surveillance is not going to be something that the NSA is going to keep doing in paper, and now are going to be the telecommunication companies. Now, this is very important because we see that citizenship, the concept of citizenship, was always tied to this idea that every individual had a personal space, a privacy granted to them just for being who they are. But now, in the coming of age of digital life, where we every day sign these agreements, terms and conditions, where we willfully turning our data for these companies, for the government to have centralized access. We're talking about a network of social media networks, providers, email, even when you watch Netflix, even when you watch Hulu, everything, marketers, they're always behind your data. And what the government, instead of getting involved in this legal battle and the Congress looking at how the NSA is surveilling us, they leave it to the professionals, they leave it to the private sector to do it for them.
You're talking about the PRISM program, and unfortunately the USA Freedom Act didn't touch that either. They touched one tiny little program, one snippet that in reality is still intact, but PRISM, it allows for that unflattering collection of any data, any selfie, anything that you've done online, on the internet, is stored and kept. And you know, unfortunately, until there's a legislation that forces these companies to protect the privacy of its customers, there's nothing stopping the U.S. government from continuing this for another 14 years.
Exactly, and all of this stems from the Patriot Act. Right after the terrorist attacks of 9/11, there were these series of policies that allow the government to protect the citizens in case of another attack by surveilling every communication in the country that they saw fit. But the reality is that no terrorist plot has ever been thwarted or stopped with data coming from these programs. What we do know is after the Paris attacks, many were really eager to blame Edward Snowden as one of the culprits of the terrorists being able to do these acts.